Good evening. Welcome to this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show. My name is Leon Jones. Tonight's topic: Democratic Party has kept black people on a plantation. The Democratic Party has kept black people on a plantation. Why do I say it? Because it's true. If you look at every major city in this country, the cities are run by Democrats. Now, what do you have that is troubling in these inner cities? You have drugs. Of course, the white man did put the drugs into the black community. But we've sold the drugs to one another, killing each other. You have black on black crime in the urban areas. That's why I wouldn't live in an urban area. You have poverty, welfare, Section 8, fatherless homes, liquor stores. You have black churches on every corner. And the neighborhoods are filthy. And of course, they're unsafe. Why? Because the Democratic legislation doesn't care about black people. Because if they really did, they'd create policies or legislation to help clean up the neighborhoods. So you can have all the policing you want. But if the police are too afraid to go into a battle zone, you're not going to get the result of reducing crime. And black on black crime in the urban areas has gone rabid. In fact, black men have done enough damage to put the Ku Klux Klan out of business. And you know how rough the Ku Klux Klan was in the 20s. And in fact, during that time, most of the black people lived inside Jim Crow, and they did a lot better. You know why? Because they had to. See, prior to the 1930s, there were no social programs. But when the social programs came into effect where black people could get on social programs, particularly African American women, that's when the society went down. Now you look at it, we're divided. We're divided because African American women decided in the 1960s to jump on board white feminism. And they figured, well, we'll take the government benefits over a family structure. But if you look at every Democratic politician, what have they promised black people? Jobs, better schools, a better standard of living. You hear that in every election. And when the Democratic politicians don't get their way, what do they use? You're sexist, you're homophobic, you're xenophobic, some type of term of bigotry to try to guilt trip the other side. But black people have fallen for it. President Obama did nothing for black people. You know why he didn't do anything for black people? I'll tell you why. Because black people didn't understand how politics really worked. The gays did. That's why he did for the gays. You see, if you want politics to work for you as African American people, number one, you must have an agenda. Number two, you must be well organized. And number three, you must be well financed. Black Lives Matter. That wasn't funded by us. It just represented a couple of black women. But it was a billionaire by the name of George Soros who funded that operation. Also, if you look at all these protests that black people have, everything's about race. Well, we blame white supremacy for everything, but if you, again, look at our neighborhoods, who's destroyed our neighborhoods? We've destroyed our neighborhoods. So we don't take accountability and responsibility. And the reason why we don't take accountability and responsibility because we don't hold the Democratic Party to any type of responsibility. See, the Democratic Party, what they do, they use the rhetoric to make everything sound really good. And this is how leaders like Pol Pot, Mao Zedong, Stalin, they got in power because they were very good at using rhetoric. And they made their rhetoric so believable that it hypnotized a lot of folks. And where did they get that information from? Of course, at college, and that's another video. But going back to 2008, and I knew President Obama before he even came into power, when I heard him speak at a Democratic National Convention back in 2004 when John Kerry was running against George Bush. And that was George Bush's second term. Well, Obama got into office because he looked like us. But just because a person looks like me, he's not going to see, or she's not going to see the same things that I do. So when Obama came into office, he didn't go into these black neighborhoods. I mean, he's from Chicago, and his city last year had over 4,300 shootings and 762 deaths by guns, and he's talking about gun laws. In fact, Chicago is a sanctuary city. But being African Americans, we've all been told that the Republican Party is racist. Why? Because the Democrats utilize that rhetoric to keep us on the plantation. But the truth of the matter is, we don't vote for Republicans. And if I'm a politician and you don't vote for me and you don't have anything to say to me, I'm not going to approach you. And one thing about the Democratic Party, their thoughts are very emotional. And black people are very emotional people. This is why we can't even have a dialogue with one another. If I say something that's totally different, because my politics is basically Republican politics. I'm not on that Democratic plantation. I got off the Democratic plantation when President Clinton came into power in 1992. I knew where we were headed. But that's just my personal preference. But I believe that the Democratic Party is going to continue to keep us down. In fact, the only thing that we do for the Democratic Party as black people is offer the Democratic candidate every 4 years a voting block. Because the Democrats know that they don't have to say anything to black people. Because black people are going to vote for them. Our town or city neighborhoods could be the worst, or they could be the most impoverished neighborhoods in any city. Guess what? We're going to vote for the Democratic politicians. And if you think about what the Democrats have done for black people, let me give you some other issues on the table. The public schools, they're horrible. In fact, the number of us don't graduate, particularly black men. Unemployment is up. None of us, any African American community who live, particularly in the ghettos, understand what family structure is. That's been reduced since the Great Society program started from Lyndon B. Johnson back in the 1960s. You also look at the amount of out-of-wedlock pregnancies. welfare, against Section 8, drugs, black on black crime, and there are other instances that take place. Particularly, there are no businesses in the African American community except for Asians who come in with a greasy Chinese food place. You have your Arabs who come in with a corner store and their food is outdated and they're selling it to black people. Then you have the Koreans. They come in with their beauty supply store. And what do they do with their money? They take that money from us back to their neighborhoods and distribute that money into the economy of where they live, giving them better living conditions. The only black that ever comes into the black community, but then he leaves, that's called the preacher. He pimps all the women by taking their money. He leaves. He's going out the suburbs, yucking it, living a high life. And I'm not talking about Miller high life. He's living a high life. And also, the Democratic Party doesn't teach African Americans the system in the real world. You see, when it comes down to voting and party, you must be objective. You should check to see what both parties have. Now, here's what I want to tell you. If you continue to do the same thing over and over and over and over again and expect a different result, guess what? You're lying to yourself. And if you look at so many so-called black leaders out here, particularly on the radio, and I'll give you a few names. I hear Tom Joyner in the morning, D.L. Hughley, Dr. Cornel West. And I love Dr. Cornel West. He's a very intelligent professor. But I just disagree with his focus on the Democratic Party. Michael Eric Dyson. He's another smart professor. He majored in religion and philosophy. Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. Very intelligent. But he's on a plantation. And that's another thing when African Americans are going to college. Most of the professors that they have a left-wing ideology. Dr. Lamont Hill. He taught at my alma mater, Temple University in Philadelphia. Since then, he's gone to different universities like New York University and Columbia University to teach. But again, his politics is left of Lenin. Another gentleman to talk about, Reverend Wright. He was a preacher at Obama's church. In fact, Oprah attended that church. These are intelligent black males. But they all are on a Democratic plantation, along with Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. Now, to their defense, I know why they stay on the Democratic plantation, because they're getting paid. But the next time African Americans that you hear the Democrats telling you that the Republican Party is racist, you start reading the Riot Act to the Democratic Party. Because the Democratic Party is nothing but a bunch of white racist liberals. They're the ones who are homophobic. Because they really don't care. They care about the money. And see, the Democrats are a corporation in a different way that Republicans are. See, the Democrats get their money by taking it from hardworking people in the form of, for the most part, government jobs. Because the Democrats believe solely on government to run the whole economy and society without the benefit of their policies that keep black people and other individuals working 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet, the liberals can't enjoy that high life. And I did a video a couple of days ago on why the liberals are afraid of Donald Trump. Because he's going to cut out that fancy lifestyle that they had. And all the African American people, everybody is not going to be on a Democratic plantation. You should try something different when it comes to politics. Because a lot of you all don't know about politics. You've been told lock, step, and barrel to vote Democrat. And if you go off the plantation, we're going to vilify you. And that's what's happened. And in fact, if you're an African American and you told some of your friends, maybe your own family, that you voted for Donald Trump, you're going to have the hate speech coming at you full force. Why? Because you took the time to use your own mind. And see, the Democratic Party also keeps African Americans, again, going back to a video I did 5 months ago, monolithic, thinking like sheep. And being monolithic, guess what we can't do? We don't know how to disagree. And when we do disagree and have our own thoughts, then the people that we disagree with in the African American community become enraged with vitriol, violence, and emotion. That's why we don't know how to dialogue. When you get involved in politics, it's about having a dialogue. The Democratic Party's policies have always kept black people poor. And they're always going to keep black people poor. And if we don't learn to branch out like other races of people, we're going to be talking about white supremacy for the next 1,000 years. So it's time for African Americans to get off the plantation and start voting something other than Democrats. Now, of course, everybody can't vote Republican either, because that's a problem. But we need balance. Because the Democratic policies are not working for us. Again, you go check out all of your major cities run by Democrats. They're all sanctuary cities. They all want illegals to come in, cause a lot of crime, a lot of welfare, a lot of drugs. And that's because of white liberal policies. But we keep electing them. Why? Because the Democrats are great with rhetoric. They always tell us that the other side is racist, homophobe, xenophobe. Let's call us all these names of bigotry. Because you vote against the Democratic policies. But if you look at who the real intolerant people are, they're the ones who have the D on their sleeve, known as Democrats. And the Democrats are going to price themselves out of power in 2018. I'm bringing this video to you because I'm trying to educate all of us, or each and every one of you, African Americans, because I'm African American. Do yourselves a favor. Get off the plantation. And getting off the plantation takes reading, understanding what the other side has to say. Don't listen to the side that is supposed to be for you, because they're not for you. They're there to destroy you. And they've done it. And they're going to keep destroying you. Because you had people like Margaret Sanger, who don't like you as African Americans. They don't like me. In fact, white supremacy tolerates us, doesn't care about us. But what we have to do is take more time to educate ourselves and understand that the Democratic Party is nothing but a slave master. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show for this evening, Friday, January 27th, 2017. You can tune in to the 401 Talk Zone radio show every Monday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Blog Talk Radio. Guest call-in number is 215-383-5785. And if you like my videos, please share and subscribe to the 401 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube so I can continue to bring you quality information for educational purposes from a professional and mature perspective. Now, on this channel, I do not engage in controversial, social, or emotion and debates, nor do I participate in drama or unnecessary bickering. My channel is geared for people who are interested in business, education, careers, and politics. Now, some of the information that I do present may sound like a social issue. If you're on your emotional wave, it's probably going to be controversial. But if you're logical, you're going to find out that it's education. So I present my content from a realistic perspective, and it's positive. Because what I'm trying to teach young brothers and sisters, and even some of the older brothers and sisters, is how to survive in the real world. So I'm giving you my research and my experiences. And hopefully you can share some of your experiences and research with me as well. Because knowledge is power. And if you have a business or a topic that you would like for me to discuss on YouTube or Blog Talk Radio, please email me at lej6521@gmail.com. If you have a comment, please leave it in the comment section under the video. But make sure that your comments are pithy. No bloviating, pettifogging, or filibustering if you wish to opine. That's it for this video. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. Remember, please be gentle and respectful to each other, and have a wonderful and blessed night. Good night.